Hi, I'm Dr. Nathan Ho. You are watching the Coffee Break Interview video podcast. And today I have the privilege to invite someone that I admire so much over the years. And I know we all will learn so much from him today. Dr. Abnati, I am so excited and honored to have you on this video podcast with me today. Thank you so much.
No, thank you. It'll be fun.
You came to Baylor College of Dentistry in 2007 or 2008, and you share with us your very inspiring story that made a positive impact in my career and my life personally. And I'm sure it's the same for my classmates. But for some of our members on Facebook that haven't met you yet, can you take a couple minutes to tell our members a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I was born and raised in McKinney, Texas, which is about 35 miles from Dallas. So it's a bedroom community for Dallas. And at the time, I graduated from dental school. It was 1975. Pretty small, about 15,000 people. And I started my career there in two failed associateships. I got fired from one, and then the other associateship, he was supposed to retire. He didn't retire, so I had to quit and open an office across the street. But right after dental school, I got married. So, things were going along. We opened another office and expanded, and another office and expanded. And so everything was going well with me. My wife at the time, Sarah, was a buyer for Neiman Marcus and traveled a lot. And about 4.5 years into our marriage, we had no children, but she wanted a divorce. And about that time, I became addicted to cocaine during the divorce procedures and stuff. Right after the divorce was over, someone invited me to go to church with them, introduced me to God. And that very night that I was there in this church, it was a Friday night. It was non-denominational. It was just a great speaker. I went back to my house, smoked a joint, stuck a 45 in my mouth, and pulled the trigger. Everything changed after that. I still was real productive in what I did in dentistry, and I met my wife of 38 years. Her husband left her when she was about 1 month pregnant and served her divorce papers right after Courtney was born. She was a patient. I can remember about 6 months after Courtney was born, one of my staff said, "Well, you need to ask her out." I said, "She's married." And he says, "No, not anymore, and I said, "Well, she's got a child." And he said, "Who cares, And so anyway, we started dating, got married, and really just totally changed my life. But I never stopped focusing on dentistry and doing, what I really wanted to do. So.
Yeah. So that's an awesome story. Thank you for sharing with us.
Anytime.
I know you're a consultant, an author, and a very successful dentist. What is the secret?
I see. For me, it's just persistence. I've got a little guy mentality. I mean, neither you or I, neither one of us are very big, but I was this size in the 7th grade. I was about 5'9", probably weighed 130 pounds, but I grew real quickly, and then I didn't grow at all. And so, in Texas, if you don't play football, you don't get dates in high school. Okay. So, like soccer and baseball and basketball and track, those are not sports. Those are off-season football. And I can remember the 9th grade, I probably weighed 140 pounds, and everybody else was 6'6" and 300 pounds. I couldn't play football, and it really hurt my ego, and so I just studied. I couldn't play football. I couldn't get a date, and so I still got this little guy mentality. You tell me I can't do something, and I will crawl over it, around it, or under it. There's nothing I can't do. So one of the things that I think has made me really obtain certain levels of success that I probably wouldn't have obtained otherwise is persistence. I don't give up. I always fail forward. You never fail unless you don't get up, right? So yes. I'm pretty good at setting goals and knocking down and checking the boxes. And I spent, just to give you an example, my first year and a half in practice, I spent a year and a half visiting offices that produced $1 million a year. Now, to your audience, that sounds like, oh, that's not so good. Okay, but in 1975, $100,000 a year practice was almost 10 times more than most people did. There was a book written by Bob Lazar called the $100,000 practice. So someone doing $1 million was never heard of. And we didn't have dental economics. We didn't have the internet. We didn't have traveling speakers. We didn't have no way to really benchmark yourself against the other dentist. And so I found one of these guys at a seminar. His name was Bubba Yates from Utah. I went and visited him. After visiting almost 22, 23 of these offices, I kind of realized that, they weren't any better looking than I was. Their clinical talent wasn't any better. Their staff wasn't any better. Their office locations weren't any better. And I finally realized it's me that's holding myself back. And so I think all of us have this self-image, this perspective they look at that sometimes even sabotages their success because of their own self-image. And so anyway, that made a big difference because it set in front of me a benchmark and a visual vision of what can be done. And the very next year, I did a little over $1 million.
Wow, that's impressive.
Well, I don't know how I did it. I mean, I did work harder. I did look at my goals differently, but I had kind of a can-do attitude, if that makes any sense. Just like, this is possible. I can, if someone else is doing it, it's probably possible, right? So I just went and tried to make it happen for me.
So it's all about changing that mindset, right? And
it is.
Try to improve every day.
Well, it's difficult to change that because you've had a lifetime of having people and institutions and schools and teachers mold you into something that maybe there is a book called Man's Search for Significance. And it is a Christian book, but the whole book centered around this, that your performance and other people's really having them say, yes, they like you, that approval, other people's approval equals your self-worth. And I guarantee you, if you're in McKinney, Texas in 1975, that was the first year that you could market. I was averaging 200-300 new patients a month. The other dentists were complaining because I was getting all the patients, and it was legal back then. And then, so I fought that battle in marketing. We had our own lab in that practice, and I don't know anybody that had multiple doctors back then. So there are a lot of people that go before you that knock down some of these things to make it possible for you to practice where you're practicing today. So,
yes, thank you so much. So today I'm going to pick your brain and try to extract some great tips and advices for our members. Are you ready?
Sure.
Yeah, but before I do that, I want to show you a surprise. And right here, you came to Baylor in 2000. Over 10 years ago, and you gave me this card right here that has practice benchmarks in the front and then the overhead percentage in the back. And I still have this in my wallet every single day for the last over 10 years. So, and
it's still viable. And again, part of this brainwashing that goes on with institutions and schools and stuff is that it limits, your reach. I mean, you don't think about reaching any further. Those numbers are still viable in a practice today, even though we're faced with, managed care and everything else. I'd be glad to send one of my books. Now, I have to send it digitally. I can't afford to send everybody in the world, a hardcover book, but it's called The Super General Dental Practice. I can send that to you digitally, and there is a chapter on overhead benchmarks. And it doesn't have that card in it, but it's got it printed on the page. Okay.
Yeah, I will read it.
I'll get you a new card. I'll get you a new card. Okay.
Thank you. And I will laminate it. Thank you.
There you go.
So you had built an $8 million dental practice before. Can you give us some ideas of what involves in running such a large, high-producing practice, such as the number of dentists, hygienists, and marketing costs?
Yeah, I can, but let me say this too. Let me preface it with this, because I think the mistake most doctors make is, they graduate from high school and then they get into college, and it's a different ball game. There are some real competitive individuals out there. And the only reason that you got into dental school is because you made better grades than somebody else. Okay, now they graduate from college, they go into dental school. It's a whole different arena again. You graduate from dental school, your license is just a learner's permit. You're just barely not dangerous. And so your education doesn't stop there, but it is a whole different arena. And when you said, how do you do $8 million a year? It wasn't so much that. It's that I always thought that every year I could do better than I did the year before. Now, when we graduate from dental schools, we think the actual instead of the journey, the destination is a solo practice, right? I mean, we kind of think about that, solo practice, I own my own practice, and okay, but it's not. The solo practice, if you're really meeting your patient's needs, is just one station on that journey. And let's say, for example, you just had a few new patients. Well, if you really inspire them, next month you're going to have a few more, and then you're going to need a hygienist, because you can't just clean everybody's teeth yourself. And then you're going to need 2 hygienists, and then you inspire them, there should be more, and then it should never end. If there's ever a point in your practice history where you've plateaued, you've stopped meeting the patient's needs. And again, that should never happen. So the ultimate destination is going to be multi-doctor practices that continue to grow, and it might be the addition of other practices. But again, it's not just the solo practice. So I started with that in mind. I just wanted to do better every year. So we averaged a 20% increase every year for 37 years.
Yeah, that's a great point.
That's how you get to that. Whatever. And again, I hate telling people the dollar amount.
Yeah.
Okay? But the whole time you're doing it, you're trying to get your overhead between 50 and 60%. Okay. You're trying to get your supply cost at 6% or lower. You're trying to get your lab at 8 to 10%. You're getting all those other benchmarks are important.
Yes.
To end up with that, whatever it is you're going for.
Yes, I'm sure it's a really long journey. So if you were to think of all the strategies that you teach to practice owners, right, what are some of the things that you would suggest for practice owners to do starting today to grow their dental practice?
Right. I wish I could have got them before it was today and they're already practicing, but you probably have some dental students or people that are working as an employee.
Yes.
Location is, I think, and I teach a lot of classes, and I've had a lot of clients that you would know who they are. They've got institutes named after themselves and stuff like that, but their practices suck. Okay. Their persona on stage is different than what their business is. And so, again, location is going to define for most of you success. And now I think if I talk to any of these great clinicians or great people that even have practice management, companies themselves, I could tell them, if I took you out of this position and put you in a different town, you couldn't reproduce this. Because location, is, you're in the right place, but timing is real important too. So most people don't give enough credit to those things for their success. I'll have to tell you, McKinney's one of the fastest growing cities in the United States. It was 15,000 when I started. The ratio of dentist to population was about 1 dentist for 5,000 people. So there were 3 or 4 dentists in town.
Yeah.
Okay. By 1990, middle of 1990s, it was 19,000. Didn't grow at all. But we didn't have dentists move in there.
Yeah.
Now it's approaching 200, 250,000. And it will build out at 500. That ratio is the second thing. Location is important. That ratio of dentist to population is very, very important. It needs to be about 1 dentist per 2,000 people. You exceed that by letting it get to 1 to 1,000 or 1 to 500. McKinney currently is 1 to 600, and one of the zip codes is 1 to 128. you cannot make a living in McKinney, Texas, and you're most likely going to be bankrupt. And so that location, along with the competition, are real important. So what would I ask you to do? The first thing is to understand your key practice indicators. Okay, like that overhead we were talking about just then. Yes. Most doctors, if I ask them, how long does it take you to cut a crown prep? They're going to tell me an amount of time. But it's not the real time it takes them. That's the one time they did it that fast. So, it's like they're exceptional thinkers. They have the one time they did it right. They really need to understand those numbers. There are 300 key practice indicators. All you need to know is about 9 or 10 of them to run your practice. They need to know those back. Number of new patients, number of direct referrals, production, collection, hygiene, percentage, and it says on that card at least a third of the production from hygiene. Production per employee should be $20,000 to $25,000 per month. You have 6 employees, then that would be somewhere in the range of $120,000 to $150,000. $25,000 to $30,000 production per operatory. I mean, it just goes on, but you need to know those numbers. The third thing is I would look at your reputation. Look on the internet. See what people are saying about you, because no one's going to actually find your practice on the internet unless they know your name. But if they do an organic search, 47% of all the searches on the internet for anything dental is just going to be dentist, the word dentist or dental in a location. So dentist in McKinney. You don't come up on the first page, they're never going to find you in organic search. Okay? But if let's say they finally found you, maybe a friend told them, the first place they go is to look at your reputation. And most doctors I talk to on the phone are really surprised when they look at the reputation about what people are saying, because they use Demand Force, Smile Reminder, PMG Lighthouse, and they only get good reviews. Well, of course, the patient knows you can track their IP address. But in a internet deal where you've got Yelp, Health Grades, Dr. Oogle, all those others, you'll see what the public really thinks about you. And a stranger, not somebody that's in your practice now, will look at that. And if you've got anything less than a 4, you're not going to get new patients.
True. Google reviews is very important. I feel like most of the patient communication program out there, even though they can get hundreds or thousands of reviews, but those reviews don't show up on the search engine. They don't, right? Right. So Google reviews is very important. And then in our practice, sometimes we spend $4,000 to $8,000 on marketing to send out postcards, and we only get about 5 or 6 patients. Right. Sometimes even less. But we get about maybe sometimes even 20 to 40 patients from Google review or from Google search. Right. So Google reviews is very important.
But Nathan, also remember that your locations are in densely populated dental areas where everybody's using postcards. Everybody's using, print ads do work. But it depends, again, on your location. Okay, signage does work, but it depends on your location. So, and again, when I start a new practice, and I start about 5 or 6 a year, we're going to spend $50,000 or $60,000 in the first 6 months on marketing. I mean, how many of you folks borrowed that much money so you could do the marketing? Now, and it wasn't just average marketing; it was good marketing. So
that's how much we make in a month.
That's probably twice what most people make in a month. Okay, so you're right. Yeah, it's a lot of money, but that you have to, when you think about airplanes flying, 90% of the fuel is eaten up on takeoff and landing. Once you get to cruising altitude, it doesn't take a lot of effort. Yeah, and so you've got to remember if we're talking to a startup practice or a doctor who wants to make changes, he may have to go borrow money to market. But I would never do marketing unless I got at least 50% direct referral rate. If I was going to look at one number that would tell me more about your practice than anything else, it would be that percentage of direct referrals. And it's not uncommon that a practice like yours might be, let's say you got, and it doesn't matter what you got. I know you probably get more than this, but let's say it was a solo practice, you got 40.
Yes.
Most of, 40, then I want to know where they came from. How many were direct referrals? So let's say it was 50%. So that leaves 20. How many came to you because of PPOs or insurance? Because we're seeing 73, 76% of the population having some form of dental insurance in cities. Okay? So, and it might be higher than 10 or 15. So now we got 5 left. Where did those 5 come from? Maybe it came from your direct Google search or reviews and stuff. Maybe it came from your signage or location. But then I look at the amount of money you're spending on marketing. Only those 5 patients at the bottom were the ones you paid. And I see people paying $500 to $1,000 a patient because they didn't take care of the people they already had.
That's right.
So,
and most of the referral that came from our patients are free, right?
Yes.
And yeah, it's free. And the most important thing is they already kind of trust you before they came in.
They become raving fans.
Yes.
You know, I mean that's your goal, is to turn them into really, we have a widget. I mean, you know, we talk about corporations having a product that they produce, or make a water bottle or whatever it is. Our widget is making patients who show up, pay for their treatment, and refer everybody they know. You figure out a way to get people to show up for their appointments, okay, fit it into the budget, you know, and refer everybody they know. You'll never be able to see all the patients that'll be down your doors.
Yeah. So speaking of PPO,
okay.
So there are some practice owners out there that are ambivalent about whether they should build a fee-for-service practice or a PPO one. What is your opinion on these 2 models?
It depends on your location. Now, the ADA, I mean, and I'm not a big, huge fan of the ADA's statistics, because they only have about half the people signed up for it. And I think those half, kind of like people that fish and hunt, they tell you about this fish that got away. You kind of have to divide by 2. So I think a lot of people that take surveys, I mean, when have you ever had a time to take a survey? Never, right? So the people that take surveys are sitting around with their, thumb in their mouth, So, but they say only 6 to 7% of the practices and doctors in the United States are fee-for-service. Now, why is that the case? Because it's a managed care jungle. And the only way to win at managed care, I mean, I hate it. And I grew up in a time where there was no insurance, and then there was only indemnity insurance, and then managed care came in. So the practices that I've owned, a lot of them are driven by PPOs. The only way to win at managed care is because they're going to knock your fees down 25 to 35, 40%. 2 ways. 1, you outrun them. 2, you outgun them. Outrunning them means delivering the same quality of service and results, or better, 25 to 40% faster, or selling services and products that the insurance doesn't cover. That's the only way to win at that. You learn to do that, and it's possible to do that. It's very easy to do that. So I remember in junior high, everybody's when you're playing basketball and stuff, was to be able to dunk, right? Now I'm 5'9", okay? And the coach goes, okay, Abernathy, come over and put your hand on the wall as high as you can. And he marks it. He goes, now, do it further. So I did it. He said, try it. And I went, and it was a ½ inch further. I mean, I don't know what I did to do it. He goes, and he marks it. He says, now do it again, higher. I mean, that's what it takes. You can learn by choice of systems, protocols, delegation, systems. I mean, to make things work so well that it's no longer prep and pray. It's no longer wondering whether you can pay your bills at the end of the month. You're just like this focused machine, and it works incredibly well.
Yeah. So I kind of know the answer to the next question, but I'm going to ask you anyway, okay? So for the entrepreneur dentists out there, would you recommend them to focus on building one large practice, or should they try to build or buy several small practices? Because I know that some own just one large practice, but they produce a lot more or the same as someone that owns 5 or 10.
That's true. And it's a convoluted question, and it's not an easy one to answer. For the entrepreneurial in spirit, and I don't know that I was always entrepreneurial. I got bored about every 5 years, so I had to find something new to do. So, write a book, have a management consulting company, have a marketing company, have a commercial lab. I mean, I just get bored. Okay. But for the entrepreneurial, one caveat, one thing I want to warn you about is that you need to be able to run a practice that is super successful, like we talk about super general dental practice, before you do another practice or even grow that to a large deal. I don't think the future of dentistry is going to be 12 to 20 offices. Okay. Now we're seeing a change, and if you look real hard, you can see this. We're getting away from digital communications. Like, for example, you're watching a TV commercial. It's a bank. You call them up and go such and such, credit card or bank. And he goes, oh, I thought I'd get a recording. So, no, we're a live person. We always, okay, you're seeing that they're trying to get back to this high touch and then use the technology to prop that up, but to show them that you're just not a number. Okay, so I think that the public will want smaller practices. Think about it. If competition goes up, and we've gone from, we're now at the highest point of ever graduating as many dentists as we have. So over 6,000, okay? Competition's increasing. Demand's going down. When I graduated from dental school, do you remember the term decayed, missing, and filled teeth?
Yeah.
Do you remember that? Okay. So the average adult in 1974 had 12.1 decayed, missing, or filled teeth. Okay? High demand. Now, they weren't into, hygiene and preventative, but it was more of a wants-based business model. Something breaks, they want it fixed. If I hurt, I want it to stop, whatever. That's changed to a needs-based. Yeah. Till about the mid-90s, we didn't have things to sell people. The minute we started selling to them, this relationship changed. In 1995, we were the third most respected profession, just below a priest and a physician. We were number 3. The minute we started selling stuff, we're now at number 24, just above a used car salesman. So this perception of the public is, probably, if you ask the average person, can you tell me the difference between these dentists? They don't perceive that. It's called the commoditization of healthcare, where patients are starting to believe that a crown is a crown, a clean clean. Okay, now, with that in mind, back to your original question. I think the future is going to probably be a 6 to 8 office with 3 doctors working there and 5 or 6 hygienists, 12 hours a day, 6 or 7 days a week. Now, will there be these large mega practices? And the one that I sold is a large mega practice. It's got 23 chairs. Okay. Yeah. But I don't think that's necessarily going to be the future. Now, the reason that people with multiple practices don't make more profit, they never knew how to make profit in the first place. Yeah. But you can make it very successful. But it all hinges on location, the doctor that you put in there, and that doctor is going to want some form of ownership. Yeah. And so it's a whole different, I wrote a book on associates and partners too. We can talk about that some other time, but it is an interesting dynamic.
Yeah. It's all about that location and system, right? So
yes, it is.
Let's talk a little bit about new dentists and practice owner real quick. So we know that dental students don't get much or any training in running a dental practice or business in dental school at all, right? So for the new dentists, what are some of the advices that you would give them before they get into practice ownership?
Okay, yeah. One, I would seek out employment in the busiest practice I can find, regardless of what they're going to pay you. Where you're in there and you're seeing 15, 20 patients a day. You're seeing wisdom teeth extractions and then molar root canal. And then, whatever it is. You really get exposed to stuff. So now it'll pump up your confidence and it'll pump up your competence, okay, to do it. As I say, we weren't, in dental school, you're just not exposed to that many procedures enough times. This is a little off the topic, but you know what the Maslow's hierarchy of learning is? You'll remember this. Okay. There's 4 levels of learning. One is we don't know what we don't know, okay? We're unconsciously unskilled. That's the day we get to dental school, right? We didn't know
Yes.
anything about dentistry. We're unconsciously unskilled. Okay. Now, on the second day, now we're consciously unskilled. Now we know we don't know. We graduate from dental school or from high school or college, whatever it is, at the third level. We are consciously skilled. Okay? Now, that's not the end game. And I remember that first wisdom tooth I took out. I never take out a wisdom tooth in dental school. I took it out. That was my first patient. I said, sure, we can do that. We'll get you coming in the morning. And I can remember putting Gray's Anatomy book and all these books in the other operatory and staying up half the night worrying about this. And so I said, I'm going to numb you. And I walk in there and flip the page and go, okay, make incision from, and don't cut the lingual nerve or whatever it was, And I got it out, okay? But our ultimate goal, whether it's your staff or you, is to become unconsciously skilled. And I'm only unconsciously skilled at a couple of things. Okay, one's dentistry. The other is probably karate. I mean, I took it for years and years, almost 30 years. And, if somebody swings at me, I'm going to hit them in the throat, okay? Or I'm going to poke their eye out or something. It's not going to be a fair fight, okay? So your ultimate goal is to be unconsciously skilled. So on these young doctors, being in the right location for a certain period of time to understand really the business of dentistry is real important. Now, the second thing would be you need to take your extra money and go into Dental Town, call me, I'll send you books or whatever. But actually, you can even go to our website, Summit Practice Solutions, and there are over 500 articles that I've written in the last 3 or 4 years. Okay, so, I mean, any topic, you can search it. So you really need to educate yourself. When you get off of work, take an hour and learn something.
Yeah.
Okay, so those would be the two.
Great. That's great advice for a new dentist, right? So what about the dentists that are in their first, second, or third year of practice ownership? What one piece of advice that you would give them so they can be better, not dentists, but business owner?
Okay. Well, I mean, one is to get out of debt. I mean, I think we've raised, the Gen X's and the millennials have been raised to think that debt is normal. I've never seen a dental student, even with $300,000 worth of debt. And I've had some that had $500,000, that within 7 years, we couldn't get them completely out of debt. When I say out of debt, they don't owe anything on a car. They don't owe anything on a house. They don't owe dental school. They don't owe the practice. So if you've been in ownership for 2 or 3 years, you should be, one of the benchmarks would be your production per hour. You need to be in the $700-800 an hour range, if not more. Okay? That's a lot. Yeah, you need to be saving 20% of what you take home every year. And again, you should be decreasing that debt. Again, I think 2 to 3 years is a great time to now sit down and reflect on, am I where I thought I'd be? And if you're not, and you're probably not, then let's do a trajectory adjustment. Let me give you 2 facts, okay? One, you can't get better at giving people what they don't want. Okay, now it's kind of a double negative, but if you're plateaued, you're trying to give people something they don't want. Okay, now it could be your hours. It could be the fact that you're not in network insurance. It could be that you don't see their children, or you don't have that range of services. I had a doctor go, I'm struggling. And then I'm looking at their schedule. I'm going, that's weird. I said, so do you do extractions? She said, no, I don't do extractions. Do you root canal? I don't do root canals. Do you see kids? No, I don't see kids. How are you going to make a living doing that? Because here's what the consumer wants. I want you to be in network for my insurance. I want you to have consumer hours. I want you to see my whole family. And I need interest-free financing. And I need that range of services that, and a single doctor oftentimes can't do all that. So, but that's the benchmark you're going to be compared against.
Thank you. So the next question is not dental related. And I'd like to ask you, what makes you happy in life?
And I hope you actually could answer this for me, but I'm at a point in my life where I don't have to work. Yeah. I've never taken a penny out of Summit Practice Solutions ever. Max, used to be my partner. I gave him the business. He makes money, and the consultants make money. Yeah. But really, it's probably serving and gift giving. You know, that I enjoy that more than anything. So I'd have to say that. That's what makes me tick.
You're just an awesome person.
No, that's not true. I'm a piece of crap, but you know, it's like I deep down in there, if you dig enough, and you know, you're going to find that I that's what I like to do.
Yeah, that's awesome. So how can our members contact or connect with you?
Okay, well, I'll give you my personal email and my personal cell phone. My email, well, I mean, you know, you're not going to get a business. I mean, I give you a business number, but I don't want you to call there.
Oh, just know that there will be thousands of dentists watching this video podcast, okay?
That's okay. My email address is my last name, Abernathy, ABERNATHY, 2004, Yahoo. Now, the reason it's 2004 is I didn't have an email address before 2004. The office did, but I didn't have a personal one. I didn't want to talk to anybody. Okay, my phone number is 972-523-4660. And so, again, if you have a question, just give me a call. You know, I'm happy to talk to you. So I may have to get off a tractor or something, talk to you, or, you know, stop fishing, but, you know, you let me know.
Yeah. And I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you because you always answer my phone call and respond to my email. That's just awesome. Well, Dr. Abernathy, it's truly been a privilege to having you on the Coffee Break Interview video podcast today. You have given awesome tips and advices that I know will help so many dentists and practice owners. Thank you so much again. And until next time, take care.